Welcome to the Shopify Happy Hour. On this show, you'll hear from Shopify founders, operators, and growth experts on marketing strategies, lessons learned from the trenches, and real e-commerce insights, all shared over a different drink or snack each episode. Today's guest is Martin Acosta, founder and CEO of Kiwa, a global brand of premium vegetable chips and better-for-you snacks sold in more than 30 countries worldwide. What started with 5 employees, basic machinery, and a mission to connect farmers to world markets has grown into a purpose-driven brand focused on wellness, sustainability, regenerative agriculture, and creating vibrant products that positively impact both consumers and farming communities across South America. Martin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, first off, one of the favorite parts of this podcast is trying the products. So I've got here with me a couple different bags. One is the vegetable chip mix. So for anybody at home, this is a combination of beet, cassava, parsnip. Didn't know there were parsnip chips, but that's amazing. Plantain and sweet potatoes. I'm about to dive in and get this going. And what do you have over there, Martin? What are you going to be trying?
I have this for my kids here. So these are tortilla chips they are grain-free, made out of cassava. And this is the chili lime flavor, which is their favorite. I also have plantain croutons, which are like a topper. So like a salad topper.
Nice. Love it. Love it. So where are all of these vegetables and products being sourced? Where are they being grown?
Mostly in Ecuador, in South America. So sometimes we have to buy from Peru and from Colombia as well, but mainly Ecuador.
I got excited and didn't cheers. Cheers to you. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you being here. These are super nice. Definitely earthy, and you can tell it's real. It's not like, for lack of a better word, crap products that are not real food. You can tell this is like a dense chip that is vegetable based. So really solid so far, just like light flavoring, really good crunch, the right amount of salt. So first bite, but so far, really nice. Well done.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, the beetroot chips, try those because they only have beets. We've seen in other brands, they usually have a sweet potato and they use beetroot juice to color it. So you can read it in the ingredient list, but ours is a real beet.
That's amazing. Before we dive into your journey, I always like to nerd out about how products are made. So can you talk to us about the process from how this product gets created? What does the process look like from vegetables and actual ingredients being grown to then turning into this beautiful bag of chips that I'm consuming right now?
So the first thing is that we have to realize that we are based in Ecuador, my home country. So the reason why I came back after my graduate studies and working for a private equity fund a British private equity fund was because I was amazed of the nutrient density and all the things that happen in this country, because it's really one of the most mega diverse countries in the world. So it's a tiny country. In 2 hours, I can be in a snow-capped mountain. In 4 hours, I can be in the jungle. In 4 hours, I can be at the beach, any time of the year. And really, so it's fascinating what we can source here, right? So we are sourcing from 9 out of the 21 provinces. And yeah, sometimes we have to buy as well from Peru the sweet potatoes and from Colombia other products. So we work directly with farmers. That means that we have technical guys on the fields every day. They are visiting them, so they are part of our team really. And through that work, we created a direct trade program where we provide them technical assistance, of course, but also fixed prices, all year long. All year long is the same price because here we don't have, the 4 seasons. We only have the rainy days and the sunny days. That's it. Once the farmers, sometimes they are associations of farmers. They gather their raw material. In the case of plantains and cassava, they have to peel as well. So they send the product already peeled to us. We receive them in our manufacturing facility, which is located at almost 9,000 feet above sea level. So very high up in the Andes Mountains. We get the raw materials. We make sure that everything is processed under the right way. We have all types of quality certifications, including BRC. BRC is, you start with good manufacturing practices, HACCP, and you get up all the way. And BRC is really the highest standard that we have seen, higher than any other GSI equivalent. So we have these parameters. We work in our own facility. Yeah, sometimes we peel them, sometimes wash them. They go through the production line. In the case of tortilla chips, they are dehydrated first. So it depends on the raw material, but we have had to learn with unique raw materials such as, the native Andean potatoes, which are harvested at over 11,000 feet above sea level. So very unique raw materials. Yeah, the parsnip that we have here really is a white carrot. So plenty of unique raw materials. So along the way, we've learned how to process each one in a different way. And then we package here. Most of our sales are, private labels or under our own brand, Kiwa. And then I would probably tell you only 5% goes out as bulk. Everything else is packaged here, and we get containers, every day out to different countries, mostly the US. The US is the majority of our sales. And then, yeah, we work with distributors, we work with brokers abroad, and we work directly with, in some cases, with retailers as well. Some of our clients include Walmart, Aldi, Costco, on and off. The thing is that we've been able to create long-term relationships with all these networks that we have created over the years after participating in, I don't know, maybe five trade shows at least every year in different parts of the world.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. So you mentioned your manufacturing facility is 9,000 feet above sea level. So what is the reasoning is there any reason from a manufacturing standpoint that it's there, or is it just because it's closer to where everything's being grown?
There's it's right in the middle of all the products, because some products are coming from the lowlands, others are coming from the highlands. So this location was perfect because of that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we discovered that manufacturing at this height, the products, some of our products are kettle cooked, but they rarely taste as kettle cooked because something happens at this height. There's no guarantee. This is just what I've heard and what I've learned along the way. But when you manufacture the chips at sea level, for example, they come out oily and greasy. Ours don't. So something happens because of the altitude for sure.
I will confirm there is zero greasiness. They're firm, crisp, and you tell fried or cooked very, very nicely. So processes, so ingredients show up at the manufacturing facility, and then what is it? They have to be cut and then cooked and then seasoned. Is that the right flow?
Yes, and before we season them, we select them. We throw out approximately 6% or 7% of all chips because they don't match our standards. So sometimes you'll open a bag of chips in of a regular brand and you'll see some crumbs. Sometimes you'll see you'll see two that are sticking together. So we manually select the chips, which is a big part of the story. So a lot of focus on quality, which is our first value. We have 4 values. The first one is quality. So yeah, we have, I wouldn't say a very artisanal process. It's mostly, there's line machines for sure, but at the end, we go and make sure with our eyes that we're selecting the right products before they are packaged, before they are seasoned and packaged.
The only problem with that is if you're sharing a bag and you get the chip that's blended with another chip, technically that counts as one chip. So you get the 2 for 1. So that's
that doesn't happen with us. Yeah, that doesn't happen with us.
Nice, good stuff. So let's go. So thanks for sharing some of the manufacturing steps there and why you're operating at that altitude, which makes sense. So can you talk about, let's go back to early days when you were first starting the business. Can you talk about what was your why? What was the reasoning behind it? And how did you get off the ground?
Yeah, so I was working for a private equity fund, and I thought, it must be cool to be the one actually doing things. So I decided to come back to my home country, and I started looking for companies to buy. I was thinking, about buying a bigger company. I have very good MBA, so I thought, it's going to be easy to fundraise and get investors behind me and look for a large company. And then I wasn't able to find a good one. So I started looking, I started reducing my standards until one day I saw in the newspaper, back then we still had newspapers, and in the newspaper, some people were advertising their companies for sale. So I found this tiny company that was going up on sale, was doing some advisory work, some consulting at the same time while looking for a company. And eventually one day I called back at this company. It was selling for $80,000 initially. Then it was down. The guy had no one to sell because nobody is buying or selling companies here in developing countries. It's not something that you actually do. When you start a company, you actually go make it big, or you just close it. But very few people actually buy or sell companies. So the company ended up costing me $24,000. So I had my own money, my own savings. So I bought it myself, and that's really how we started. Why did I buy this company? Because I was looking for a company where I could do 2 things: not only have financial returns on investment, but I was also very interested in the social and the environmental part. right? So I say, well, plantain chips company, this is perfect because I can work with small farmers. I can get them, maybe I can certify them organic along the way and so on. So, and also I was very interested in creating a global brand. So you go out to I had traveled to many countries before, so I realized that the only product from Ecuador, was the bananas. The bananas, and in every supermarket, most of the bananas come from Ecuador. So I said, this is crazy. We're only exporting raw materials without brands. I want to create a brand. So it really, we started with two missions. One was creating the brand, and the second one was creating a positive impact, both in terms of society and in the environment.
Amazing. So when you purchased the business, what was the distribution strategy? How were they selling product? And then what did you then do to begin growth and start increasing distribution after you first acquired the business?
Yeah, so the company was selling small plantain chips bags, like less than 1 ounce, to airlines and to buses. And it's funny because we kept the airline business and we're still supplying to two large airlines here in South America, Latam and Avianca. So it's a great marketing tool. People see the product, they can read, they have enough time to read whatever we're telling them. So yeah, it had those two niche markets. But of course, it was going to be hard to grow that way. So we started, a friend of mine came back from the US and brought me a bag of a competitor and said, hey, you should try doing other types, so not only plantain chips, maybe try with vegetables. So I said, well, this sounds like a good idea. So, I got the 5 people in my team to start going to the market, not to the supermarket, to the regular market, to the, like the primary market, and buy directly, raw materials that we could get here. That's how we eventually started working with sweet potatoes, with these white carrots, which seemed like parsnip, cassava, plantains. But then at some point we also said, okay, let's work on the beets. And it was a great decision because the beets is everybody's favorite in the vegetable mix that we have. So the product that you have is the original. That's still the best seller. It's probably 60% of our sales, different combinations of vegetables. So we started investing in R&D without a clear budget. And eventually things started happening. We diversified into vegetable chips. And a year later, someone came to us and offered us native Andean potato chips, which are these naturally colored potato chips that you can only get at 11,000 feet in the Andes Mountains of South America. And they had been kept for ages, for centuries, families that kept them for nutritional purposes. So we started diversifying that way. Today we're diversifying into cacao products. We just got a request for cacao chips for Walmart. We're doing cacao honey. So we're diversifying to other raw materials that are unique that can be found here.
So I will say I've been trying lots of different chips, and I just got one of the beet chips, and you're not kidding. That is pretty amazing. It is definitely a favorite. Those are super tasty. So okay, so when you acquired the business, they had some existing distribution channels with airlines, and you have continued that over the past couple of decades, it sounds like, and expanded upon that. Talk to me about the retail distribution. How did you start locking in those retail accounts? I know you mentioned Walmart, you mentioned Costco on and off. How did you land those retailers? What did that look
so
like?
we started going to trade shows, and it really, that's how it really started. So we started, you go to a trade show, and the second year, they already know you. The third year, they already start trusting you. The fourth year, you're friends already. So eventually, you start doing business. So it's been a consistency thing in terms of trade shows. Yeah, it's been mostly through trade shows, and then at some point we felt like a tipping point because people started approaching us, online, just like random emails, and it happens like every week. Every week we get some type of email from somewhere in the world, the UK, the US, late in the last 2 weeks, saying, "Hey, we want. Can you do this for us?" Today is, Mitsubishi from Japan approached us for banana chips. So it's not something that we were going to be able to do because they want coconut oil and we cannot source cheap coconut oil here. But, at least we're getting approached by all these different sources. But yeah, it started with trade shows, really.
And how are these other brands or distribution channels, whether it's a brand or an actual retailer, how are they finding you now? Is it because you have your brand out there through airlines and retailers
Yeah.
already, or are you doing any marketing to acquire those new inquiries?
We do very little marketing. So we still go to trade shows, different trade shows. This year I went to one in Japan. First time we went to the Food trade show in Japan. We went to we're diversifying also into pets. So I went to the Global Pet Expo and we got approved as one of the startups in the as the best startups in the in a specific pavilion. So it's been a matter of that. I mean, there are crazy stories. Like one guy from Damon. Damon is one of the largest brokerage companies in the States. One day he got a call and said, hey, and the guy was like, hey, I know it's you, but I was looking at, I'm not sure if it was Walmart or what retailer it was. We were doing a private label and it said product of Ecuador. And the guy was like, I started looking for product of Ecuador, vegetable chips, and I know it's you guys. You guys are doing this for Walmart. So I want this to come to a retailer in Asia. So that's how we started a relationship. And, that was probably 10 years ago, 10 years back. 10 years forward, the guy just invited me to spend summer at his house in near Idaho. So I might go. Who knows?
Fantastic. Talk to us about private label versus brand deals through retail. What are the pros and cons of each, and how does that get decided through the, let's say, negotiation process?
Yeah, so up until 2018, all of our sales were Kiwa branded. In 2018, actually, it was with Walmart, the first customer. So we presented the Kiwa brand and they started saying, hey, we like the product, but we want it with our own brand. And it was really the first decision. I mean, it was kind of shocking initially, but we said, okay, it's Walmart. Let's be open about this because of the opportunity. And then eventually we started seeing, in the first year, we already had 10 private label customers in the first year. So by 2019, we had 10. And so the private label, trend accelerated during COVID. We saw that clearly. And after COVID, 70 to 75% of our sales right now are private labels, which is crazy because that wasn't the original intention of us. So we want to protect the Kiwa brand. We have positioned it in some countries, mostly in the Middle East and Latin America. So those are the two areas where we focus on our own branded product. And there are always options that open in different countries, but in the States, under our own brand, we're selling very little. It's mostly through e-commerce and through regional distributors. But it's tough to make business nowadays with a brand, especially in countries like the US. So private label is such a monster, is such a tendency that it's very difficult to fight against it.
Does pricing change when you're working with a retailer like Walmart? Do the economics change?
Yes, because there's a marketing budget that we don't charge when we're doing private label. So it's even cheaper to private label part. With Kiwa, we have to allocate from the very start, maybe 10, 12%, whatever it is, 5%, 15%, depending on the negotiation and the country. But we have to allocate that for marketing because we know that we're going to have to finance or sponsor events. The retailers are asking for things all the time. So yeah, it's a different strategy for sure. However, what we have seen is that private label has helped us offset the fixed costs. We're thinking about opening a new factory, a new manufacturing facility here in Ecuador. And yeah, private label is a big driver for that automatization or that improvement in the overall cost structure that we are facing.
Love it. So I want to dive into product a little bit more. But before that, you mentioned that it sounds like trade show is the key to your kind of success with distribution, right? Consistency across trade shows. Sounds like you've been doing about 5 or so per year, and that consistency has allowed you to lock in these bigger retail partnerships. What did those conversations look like? So let's take Walmart buyer or Costco buyer or name your big box buyer who's coming by. And what do those conversations look like? What strategies would you recommend for any, let's say, CPG founder or operator who's out there who wants to lock in those deals? What did that playbook look like, and what would you suggest to them?
Yeah, so remember, I would say up until 8 years ago, you either were a manufacturer or a brand owner, right? I mean, if you think about it, especially in the States, people were very specialized. In our case, we were doing both things at the same time, which sounded like a mistake. Eventually, in the long term, it proved out to be a good idea because we can do both types of business, right? But up until 8 years ago, what we were doing was crazy. It was like, I mean, very few investors were interested because they were saying, "Oh no, but are you a manufacturer are you creating a brand?" And it was tough. It was tough to get that message across that we had a competitive advantage. But right now, I feel that after COVID, it's been a good thing to own both things, to have the brand and the manufacturing facility at the same time. And I think the main takeaway that I would have is, yeah, it's an early decision because it affects your business model, right? So in our case, we decided to do both things, but I'm not sure what's the best thing. Maybe if I were to start from scratch, I would focus on the manufacturing part specifically and only. But once you create a brand, it's like your own baby, right? You have this emotional attachment that is really difficult to let go down the road.
Gotcha. Well, good for you for following where the demand was, and makes sense if Walmart is asking about private label, and that's probably a good path to go down. So let's talk about product. How do you expand new product lineups? So I'm a dog lover. I know that you've recently launched some products in the pet market. Can you talk about how you make those decisions as to whether to roll out a new product and what that testing looks like, so you can actually
Yes.
understand that there's demand?
So the first thing is it's a continuous R&D process, right? Continuous. So we use trade shows a lot for that. I would say that's our main source of information. We take a product, and if no one is interested, well, no one is interested. But sometimes at these trade shows, we have our eyes open and things start happening. We also have a lot of relation with other companies. We're members of the cluster of superfoods of Ecuador, which has 40 companies. Everybody is trying to export superfood from Ecuador, and by being there, we have communication, and sometimes we have access to innovation that normally we wouldn't have. But yeah, I think it's in the trade shows mostly. We've tried doing, focus groups, and I'm not a big fan of them. Fortunately. But yeah, so we, for example, for the pets, how we got into the pet industry was interesting because we were showcasing at a trade show for humans, and the guys right next to us were a pet company, and they said, "Hey, you're working with sweet potato already. Can you do dehydrated sweet potato chips for us?" And we were like, "Yeah, sure, why?" And the guy, well, sweet potato is great for digestion for pets, for dogs. So we have been looking for someone to provide us, and since you are in South America, you have access to the raw materials. Please send us some dehydrated sweet potato chips. So that was our first customer, and then we decided to create an entire line around sweet potatoes, mostly with snacks. So the second year, I got some sweet potato bones, like bone-shaped sweet potatoes, and they were gone in 3 hours. So by day 2, we had nothing to show, nothing to exhibit in terms of samples of pets. So we knew we were up to something, and then we were invited to participate in the Global Pet Expo, which is like the largest show which is in Orlando. It was just in March. So we went there and started showcasing. We developed a new line called toppers, which are the supplements that you put on top of the regular food for dogs. And boom, we've seen a lot of interest, a lot of demand. So we're playing along that, but we didn't know how to package it. So after talking to a number of potential retailers, of potential buyers, we discovered that maybe we need to redo our packaging and start offering in little sachets of half an ounce or something like that. So that's something that we're still debating on, what's the best packaging. Within a month time or something, that we should be able to get that up and running. But it's a lot of interaction and going back and forth, for sure.
Love it. So I love that you're using trade shows for lots of your growth, including additional product testing while you're there. So, you've been running with Kiwa for a while now, and you're obviously manufacturing your own product. You've got the brand. You've got lots of relationships with retailers. I'm sure you've seen lots of different CPG businesses over the years come and go. You've also seen lots of successes. What do you think differentiates a CPG business for the ones that succeed and stick around versus the ones that, maybe there's some excitement for 1 year and then they're gone? What are the core differences with those?
I think a lot of the companies that disappear are like Me Too's, so they are copying someone, you know. So we used to exhibit at Expo West, which is this trade show in California, which is crazy. We stopped exhibiting there maybe 3 years ago. We're gonna return next year, hopefully. But these 3 years have been great without that show because there are a lot of people, a lot of brands. 10 years ago, venture capital was huge in this category. So a lot of people, it was a matter of how much money you attract from venture capitalists and if you are able to survive. And everybody was focusing on market penetration, market share. Market share, not profit, market share, which is different. So everybody was looking to get an exit, and there weren't enough companies to buy. I mean, there were so many companies trying to sell, but there are only, a couple of Hershey's, General Mills, no more than 10. PepsiCo was a buyer as well. At some point, we decided that that game was crazy, but we played it and we lost $500,000. We lost an entire venture capital investment playing that game for a few months. So we were doing crazy things like going into retailers, paying slotting fees. And then 4 months later, sometimes they kicked us out. We were doing all these promotions and everybody was doing the same promotion. So you start getting into this crazy competition of who does the best promotion and you're not making any money. So that was a big mistake. We did play it around 2017 or something like that with zero success. And I don't think it was a matter of passion. I don't think it was a matter of product or branding. I think up until 8 years ago, it was a matter of how much cash you had to burn. Right now, I think it's a different story. I think innovation is a key role, but but the first year, not the second year. So, you go to a trade show like Expo West, and I remember one year it was crickets, one year it was kale. There's always a clear tendency that everybody's following, turmeric. So everybody's doing things around turmeric. The next year you go back and it's something else. But there are so many companies doing that something else that is like the tendency of that year that is very hard to pick up a winner. So I think it's very good to start differentiating in different things from day one and try to create your own blue ocean. I like that book, Blue Ocean Strategy. That's something that I would highly recommend.
Similar thing for D2C and just marketing in general, right? Is finding the right positioning and not doing the same Me Too brand, right? Because I think it happens with a lot of founders or operators where they see a brand having success and say, oh, well, if they've done it, so can I. And every now and again, you'll see a success if that second brand can somehow operationalize much faster or they've got something that can help them get ahead. But a lot of the times it's just first mover advantage. They already have traction. Their brand is already known. So it's hard for that second player to come through. So I think you just figured out your next product lineup. It's cricket chips with some kale and turmeric on top. I think that's the play.
Yeah,
so,
we're like 5 years later though.
Yeah. So Martin, let's move on to the speed round. So each answer in about a minute or less. So what is one book that you highly recommend? I know you just mentioned one, but you can mention that. Or if you have a different one, you can throw that in here too.
I just read one that I think is interesting. It's called Traction. And I think it was recently written, but I really like that one because it's good in giving your structure.
Awesome. Fantastic. And what is an under-the-radar product or brand that you love?
I love the Andean Lupini beans. She's a product that is like the highest source of non-animal protein. So we get 50% of protein. With whey, you get up to 90%. But, the Andean Lupini beans, we call them chochos here in Ecuador. The chochos have 50%, and it's crazy because if you think about high protein products, they usually have quinoa, which has 14%. They usually have green peas, which only has 22%. The Andean Lupini bean goes from like 48 to 52%. And it's already being sold in Whole Foods under the Mikuna brand. And we've tried to do like a Me Too product, and we have failed in that one, So I know it's a fantastic product, but there's a thing with consumer education that we as Ecuadorians or as South Americans have not been able to be successful yet. But that's a fantastic product.
You said it's a lupini bean? How are they typically consumed?
In South America, we eat them fresh. But some people have already found ways to boil them and export them like that. It's not very attractive. but the powder, so we can sell them in powder. So you can put in a shake, for example. And it's tasteless, it's odorless, it's white. But yeah, it's just that the demand has not exploded yet. But I know that's like one of the superfoods of the future.
What does it taste like if you're just eating it raw?
I wouldn't say like a green pea. I would say like a tasteless, a tasteless bean.
Okay, all right. Well, as a marketing guy, that's probably not the tagline for it, but it's good that there's a good
I mean,
nutritional
you have to
profile.
eat it with salt. We usually boil it and put some salt on it because it's otherwise it's not very too much fun. But that's one product where we have tried. We have taken this to like 4 or 5 trade shows and it hasn't worked yet.
I imagine it's just a yet because the protein craze is pretty insane right now. And so 42% is extremely high for a vegetarian vegan product. Interesting. Okay. I have not heard of that. I will have to check it out. What is one thing that you do better than most people just naturally? And how do you do it?
Me as a person,
Yes.
I think it's motivating or crazy selling crazy ideas to the team and to investors and to buyers sometimes.
Okay. Anything that you do different than others? Like what is the key that will help you sell somebody on a new idea?
I think for one thing, it's passion for sure. The second thing is a complete conviction on what we are doing as a company, on how we started the company. So we are still being loyal to how we started, why we started. The why was very important. Remember, creating the brand and having a positive impact. So for example, tomorrow Friday, I have my entire management team going to visit these 2 associations in the highlands. One provides us with beetroots and the other one provides us with Andean potatoes, because I feel they need to see what's going on in the soil, how our farmers are working, what are their needs, how the farmers see us as a company, the importance that we have in their lives.
Love it. I love that you're tying that together. What is a favorite shopping experience you've had, either in real life or online?
Recently, I went to a store in Miami, and we were walking the aisles with 2 of my buddies, and both of them are also focused on the longevity craze that it's going on right now. But so I got into the mushrooms section. I said, well, I've never bought mushrooms. What can I buy? And there were so many options. So I eventually ended up buying a blend of 10 mushrooms. Okay. I thought it was perfect, for like the first time buyer, a blend that includes everything. So yeah, it might sound funny, but I love the experience of buying for the first time mushroom powder.
Nice. Yeah, it's good that that brand made it easy to have a variety all at once. Good stuff. Who is somebody we should have on a future episode?
I like a lot of people in the natural foods industry area. I think, you're based in the U.S. and you're very focused in the U.S. market. I have a few people, maybe the guys that started Runa, the Wayusa tea. I like those 2 guys. They created. I mean, they tried educating customers. Eventually, they got out of the company. I think they have a fascinating story to tell. One of them wrote a book, and the other one is still around working with venture capital funds. I think those 2 guys I would try.
Nice. Awesome. Martin, where can people connect with you to learn more?
LinkedIn is a great space. LinkedIn is always great. We also have our website, kiwalife.com. Yeah, and if you want products on Amazon, I think it's the best option. Our bestseller is the 2.5 on vegetable mix. But yeah, happy to provide any information that, we're always helping, and we think that enlarging our network will always help us.
Fantastic. Well, I will confirm that the beetroot and the other vegetable chips are super, super tasty, really delicious, definitely high quality, denser, and you can tell it's real food versus a lot of stuff out there that's just sort of fried nonsense. So great job on the product quality. And Martin, thank you so much for building Kiwa with such a strong focus on sustainability, innovation, and supporting farming communities across South America. And thank you so much for sharing your story and insights with us today on the Shopify Happy Hour.